Hi everyone, Joshua Kirk here with you once again, and now it's time for episode 280 of Album of the Day. I'm back after kind of a month-long break as I've been busy with schoolwork and finishing up fall semester. I haven't been able to do a review lately, but before I get into this album I'm going to review, I just want to say to all the people that checked out my previous review, which was of the new Phoebe Bridgers album, Punisher, which received over 3,200 views, the most views I've gotten on a review in a little while. That I want to thank all of you for all I want to thank all of you for your very nice feedback and sort of the support you've given me. I've been doing reviews for over 8 years now, so I'm definitely, I'm happy to still be doing this, and I'm glad you guys continue to enjoy what content I put out, because I'm definitely very proud of it. And that particular review definitely is, for my mind, one of the best things I think I've ever done. So, definitely, thank you. Without further ado, let's get to today's album review. So today's artist is likely one of the most influential duos in hip-hop of the last decade, and continue to be a very vital duo in hip-hop in terms of writing, in terms of writing songs that have a very relevant political message, as well as often a very kind of aggressive production. Of course, I'm talking about the duo of Killer Mike and LP, Run the Jewels. And finally here to review an album of theirs. I'm reviewing their new record, which came out, I believe, on June 3rd, 2020. The album is called RTJ4. As you can see, I own this thing on vinyl. Came out on vinyl on September, so of course I had to get it. Because this is one of my favorite rap releases of the year. Of course, in typical Run the Jewels fashion, we have the hand signs as the album art. There's the back, and here we have a gatefold of Killer Mike and LP, in a van, basically causing a ruckus. And this is a kind of a lyric booklet. And there's 11 songs on this record, and it's over 39 minutes long. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure this is side A and side B. Really interesting vinyl color going on here. And that's the vinyl packaging for RTJ4, the new album from Run the Jewels. So this is a record that I was genuinely looking forward to hearing because pretty much everything Run the Jewels had done up to this point had been nothing less of great. Of course, their crown jewel really in their discography and their best album in my opinion would have to be Run the Jewels 2 from 2014. Then they followed it up with a surprise drop of Run the Jewels 3 on Christmas 2016. Considering how late that record came out, it technically is very much a signifier of 2017 as the first year of Donald Trump's presidency. So definitely kind of fit basically, the vibe of that time. Excuse me. And now we have this new record, RTJ4, which apparently dropped in a pretty tumultuous period for easily one of the most tumultuous years in recorded history, 2020, which would be around the time this was released, George Floyd had just been killed by Minneapolis police, and then basically the surge of protests kind of came up as this record came out. So this definitely came out at just the right time, and thus, it's actually it feels a little weird reviewing this album now and not then, because but I definitely really wanted to review it as soon as I got it on vinyl, because even though it may not be my favorite rap release of the year, it most certainly is up there in some of the best of the year. We kick things off in typical RTJ fashion with the song Yankee and the Brave, which features this this thumping, very urgent beat over some rapid-fire bars from Killer Mike. And what better way to open a Run the Jewels record than with a line of back at it like a crack addict, Mr. Black Magic, cracked a bitch back, packed a craftmatic, Big Daddy smoking, Big Cali, in a black alley, in a black Grand Natty. He is just absolutely killing it on this track. And then LP comes in with some pretty excellent bars as well. Essentially, Yankee and the Brave are here. Everybody hit the deck. We don't mean no harm, but we truly mean all the disrespect. It is a Run the Jewels anthem through and through, and it is definitely an awesome way to open the record. Then we go for a slightly more upbeat song with the track Ooh La La featuring Greg Nice and some additional production from the one and only DJ Premier. The song features easily one of the most hypnotically catchy choruses of the year with the ooh la la ah wee wee, ooh la la ah wee wee, and sort of like the last track, Mike and Elle are pretty much spitting out fire with these raps, yet it's definitely feels like a much more lighthearted moment on the record, even though the lyrics are quite dark. It definitely sounds like them just having a good old time, and they pretty much hit that balance of just kind of ready to do business, as well as ready to do business, and also just kind of enjoying each other and just chilling in the best way possible. On this track, and of course the production, the jazzy pianos, kind of thumping beats, and the hey, 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 shouts incorporated into the beat definitely reminds me of an old school Kanye West beat, late registration Kanye. Also very Kanye-esque in the production is the song Out of Sight, where the beat essentially sounds like the kind of breezy, jazz-infested instrumentals of College Dropout or Late Registration, but filtered through the big, distorted bass of an album like 2013's Yeezus. By the way, that is very much a compliment. Compliment. Another song that has probably some of the most hilarious and clever bars on the track, like Killer Mike's, bar about its bar about being robbed by Denise's only son, and then some of the metaphors that follow after that are basically kind of a sort of a metaphor for kind of how the rich people are kind of expected to live. Um, and it transitions like very smoothly into some of LP's rapping too. Uh, Rapping as well. I mean, it is definitely pretty much a classic Run the Jewels song, and then of course, and then also 2 Chainz' verse is actually quite hilarious as well. It really shows that 2 Chainz at his best can deliver a pretty interesting kind of wry sense of humor to his delivery, and also incredibly catchy chorus as well. The next track, Holy Calamafuck, is definitely one of the more ambitious songs in terms of its structure. Features this kind of hypnotic, gibberish, like auto-tuned uh, vocal sample that definitely is quite addictive. And Mike opens the song with bars like the law defier, the non-complier, the death defier, the Mike Myers, murder rapper for hire, doer of drive-bys, the back, clack, clack, let it loose, murder all witnesses and survivors. Like, damn, that is some fire right there. Fire right there, and also really like LP's lines of Yamito, E. Michael, the Render, the Pyrotechnocrats, the old Razzle Dazzlers, the Magic Bean Imbibers, the Green Giant, the Rhyme Contrivers, Supreme Violence of the Time Describers. Like, the rhyming on their lyrics on here is just unreal. And then the song, all of a sudden, the beat stops and makes this transition into kind of a straight trap beat, which also does have some Indian tabla drums, kind of giving the beat its own kind of flavor. A pretty good rapping, and a pretty decent change of pace. However, I will say that kind of my issue with this track is that these 2 sections of the song feel like they don't quite belong together. They just kind of, it feels like 2 songs just kind of put together, like 2 ideas that aren't quite totally panned out yet. Similar issues I have with the track Goonies versus E.T. Even though, unlike the previous track, it kind of stays in one particular structure for the entirety of the song, but just the production on the song is maybe a little too laden, a little too washed out in effects, and also just, that instrumental mid-section of the song is just incredibly tedious. And even though Mike and L's delivery on this track is okay, it there's not too many bars that are really sticking out at me as being entirely memorable. It's just kind of it's a kind of, I guess, gutless moment on the record, which is funny because the next track on the record, Walking in the Snow, may very well be one of the best Run the Jewels songs of all time. Not only is the beat with its kind of punky, distorted guitars just incredible, but also Killer Mike delivers what is maybe one of his best verses ever. This entire second verse he delivers on here, with lines of you so numb, you watch the cops choke out a man like me, until my voice goes from a shriek to a whisper, I can't breathe. It's just considering I Can't Breathe was kind of a trending sort of statement at the time this album was released, to hear it in a Run the Jewels album made it kind of eerie. And also the line about, you sit there in house on couch and watch it on TV. The most you give is a Twitter rant and call it a tragedy. That kind of sums up everyone being stuck at home due to the pandemic. I mean, this album may have been written and recorded in 2019, but the fact that it is being released in such a chaotic year like 2020, well, only makes sense. It's essentially released just at the right time. Gangsta Boo has this pretty decent sort of hook on the track, and obviously L delivers on here too. The next song, Just, is maybe the most straightforward moment on the record. I mean, lyrically, it, is maybe not the most thought-provoking song on the record, but ultimately, this song still manages to be one of the highlights. I mean, Pharrell sounds really good on this hook, and Pharrell doesn't always sound this good. Excuse me. This good. Obviously the two have great chemistry with one another and pretty much prove that they're still like continuing to get better by just kind of doing what works for them. The beat is also incredibly tight. It's definitely another kind of trap leaning cut on here in terms of the production. It's got these sort of It's also got these sort of high pitched, very catchy in the production as well, which gives this instrumental a kind of sort of almost very demented tone, which I think is really interesting. And obviously, Zach De La Rocha absolutely rips at the end of the track with his verse. The song Never Look Back is definitely a much drearier cut, not only because of the production being kind of spooky and sort of very almost haunted, but also the lyrics on here are actually some of the sadder lyrics on this record, where Killer Mike and LP are basically kind of looking at sort of their lives and kind of, looking back at sort of their lives and sort of like relationships they've been in that kind of failed, and also how they're still kind of sort of treated like slaves and what have you. I do wish the beat on this track was a little bit meatier. It is one of the blander instrumentals on this thing, but really where the song I think succeeds is just in basically the delivery and the rapping on the song. The next track, The Ground Below, is also kind of a more straightforward moment on the record. Maybe not quite as lyrical as other cuts here, but it's certainly one of the highlights here, and I do really like the sampling on this track is very creative. Like, the post-punk sampling on this track gives it this really interesting kind of almost very sweaty punk atmosphere that I really like. The sample on here actually is the song Ether by Gang of Four. And the way LP references that particular song in his lyrics, I think, is also quite cool too. And also the hook is fantastic. And also just recently there was a pretty insane remix of the song, which features the alternative rock duo Royal Blood, which definitely gives it more of a straightforward kind of hard rock sort of feel. Definitely the closest the band has ever come really to rap rock and their kind of sound. The next song, Pulling the Pin, is kind of like Never Look Back, is one of the eerier tracks on here, and maybe even a little more unsettling at that. It's definitely kind of a song about how it's definitely kind of a song that sort of likens the enemies of Killer Mike and LP to essentially like serial killers who are kind of out to get you, and they could get you at any time. And history has kind of come back to haunt. So haunting. And then also Killer Mike delivers just some absolutely blistering kind of critiques on a police brutality on his verse, and basically talking about how he, basically just kind of wants to punish them in the most sort of basically just wants to, punish them for the all the wrong they've done, and in the most kind of, unthinkable kind of way. And given the dark and almost gothy tone of this track, it would only make sense that some of the production on here is handled by none other than Josh Homme of Queens of the Stone Age fame. This song basically sounds like the rap equivalent of a song like The Vampire of Time and Memory off of Queen's 2013 album, Like Clockwork. And then also, of all things, we get a hook sung by legendary gospel and soul singer Mavis Staples. And Mavis Staples really bringing the song to a whole new dimension and really sort of making Mavis sound a little more devilish in this context. And, a really cool kind of, very subversive element right there. And then the album has a kind of epic finish with the song A Few Words for the Firing Squad, Radiation, which basically is Elle and Mike kind of summarizing all that they've been through in their lives and how, despite all the terrible things happening in the world, they're still kind of fighting. And also, what better way to finish off their deliveries than with the lyric of "Go hard." Last words of the firing squad was "fuck you too." You too. The song also has this kind of burbling, very epic feel to it with its very intense strings, bumping synths, kind of twangy guitars, and also we have this really killer jazz sax solo on top of all of that, which really adds a lot to this song. I mean, that solo near the end of the track is just absolutely sick. Absolutely sick. I've even heard this song, I was in a conversation with a friend of mine who's also a music writer who said that the instrumental on this track kind of sounds like that Inxis song, like Never Tear Us Apart or something like that, which is kind of a classic 80s rock song, and I definitely can hear that a little bit. The instrumental on this track is kind of frothy and just sort of has this sort of marching feel to it that I think is really cool. And then we have a kind of funny finish where we basically have this theme music for the duo that goes Yankee and the brave, 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 and it sounds like something kind of out of and it's essentially kind of sounds, which basically sounds like the band's sort of version of a spaghetti western almost. It definitely is kind of an interesting way to close out the record, and maybe with RTJ4 they probably would do something. If they did something with RTJ4 that kind of picked up where this left off, it'd be really kind of cool, I think. So overall, I thought this was a very strong record. It definitely has topped a lot of year-end lists, and personally, I wouldn't say it's my favorite rap album of the year. As much as I love it, I will say that, spoiler, there are better rap releases this year than this one, in my opinion. So, in my opinion, there are a few moments here and there where the production is, kind of a little, the production can be a little hit and miss at times, but really where this album sells pretty much for the entire thing is that Killer Mike and LP's rapping and chemistry on this album is consistently very fantastic, and the album also just feels like a group that is not necessarily trying anything new, but just kind of continuing to get better at what they do. I certainly think this is a stronger record than, say, RTJ3 was, in my opinion. The 3 was, in my opinion. I just think this record is a little more hard-hitting and in your face and a little, I think, more, easier to listen to on repeat as well. The repeat on as well. So, I'd have to give this album maybe like a light 8 out of 10 is about what I'd give RTJ4. It is yet another very excellent achievement in the Run the Jewels discography. I just kind of hope maybe on the next record they don't just do more of the same on the next record, or I probably would get kind of bored of them. But, for now, I think this is a great record. You should check it out. That is my review of RTJ4, the new album from Run the Jewels. And I'll see you for episode 281 of Album of the Day.